Hey YouTube, this is Bill. This is going to be a part 2 of the video I just made, which was an unboxing and a review of the new Bose L1 Pro 32. Mainly was about the sub 1 module, but I also went into the pros and cons of going with the largest sub 2. So today I'm going to do a comparison video. And I said previously I have no affiliation with Bose, and I think this is going to prove it. I'm going to show you other companies, what they're offering in comparison, similar price range of the Bose L1 Pro 32 system. So the first system I want to set up and show you is what I own. I own a traditional system. I actually purchased it pretty much at the same time as the column array systems I own, because they do serve different functions. Okay, we're going to start by the traditional system. It is called the point source system, and this is what most live bands use to this day. This is an actual system that I do own, so I can answer questions about it, and I have more details about it since I've owned it for a number of years. The tops are by QSC, and it is called the K.2. It's an 8-inch speaker, and they are $650 each. The speakers have 8-inch woofers, so they do go down to a certain frequency, but they definitely need a subwoofer. They're very powerful. They're 2,000 watts. So I am able to run it on my expert power unit, but you would probably need 2 of them when you're using a pair. They do have a heavy load. Here, the frequency range here is a plus for the QSC that beats out the Bose column systems. They go up to 20 hertz, and the Bose I don't remember offhand, but they don't go up to 20. So they're definitely lacking a little clarity in the high end. And I usually use my EQ and boost the treble a couple of notches on the Pro 32. And that's when I've been missing the mid-range control too, because I feel the Bose system needs a little boost in the mids. Right here, they go up to the same dB level as the sub 2 column system, and that would be 128 dB. So this system, these are very loud. They are also very clear, but as anybody will tell you, the point source systems and column systems sound very different. Live bands, they've been using, and they still use this traditional system because they claim that the bite for the vocals and guitars is just that much better than a column system. Column system has other advantages. We've talked about some of them already. Here is 27-pound weight. That's one of the reasons I purchased this speaker. It's very easily to handle, 2 of them. This is the K.2. These speakers are very highly regarded for acoustic piano. They're very clear, super clear, and I personally use them with, like I said repeatedly, with a subwoofer. Here is the subwoofer that QSC offers that would compete or would compare with the Bose sub 2 subwoofer. It's called the KS112, again 2,000 watts, so a lot of power draw on this system. It would be hard to run all this on my external power source. This is $1,000, a little cheaper than the Bose sub 2 if you bought that separately for $1,200. This is a 12-inch subwoofer, and it is considerably heavier. It's kind of like where the Bose is heavy, but it has the way they've set up the handles on both sides. I'm able to handle that 56 pounds. This subwoofer is, I believe, in the 60-pound range, and it's kind of like dead weight. So for my purposes, this is going over what I'm really able to handle as far as weight, but this is what would compete with the sub 2. QSC doesn't make any subwoofer smaller than that previous one I just showed you. So if we're looking at the Sub 1 system. This is pretty much the closest I could find for $700 Electro Voice Evox12, again a 12-inch subwoofer. I do own this and it's fantastic. I've already talked quite a bit about it in another video. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer about this. Or you could go up with the, you could use the Sub 1 in a point source system. So when you're talking about the traditional system, two tops, of course you're going to need stands. And that's where so many people, especially mobile DJs, love the column arrays because of the easy setup. The stands are already incorporated in the column, but here you need separate stands. It's about a little under $100, $50 a piece for a set of stands. This is the mixer I own, the Yamaha MG10 10-channel mixer. Obviously on the Bose system, it has a 3-channel mixer built in, so you do not need to purchase a separate mixer. And again, when you have a mixer, you need another power source. So that's a great feature. Then again, the mobile DJs and the guitarists, duos with a vocalist, they love the column systems because you don't have to carry all these extra parts. This mixer, of course, has more EQ and more features than the Bose system offers. And if you want to get this number of inputs or more EQ, you would have to purchase the Bose, their mixer, which is considerably more money. This is fairly reasonable at $210. Built like a tank. I've had this for many years. This is a very popular mixer, the Yamaha MG10XU 10-channel mixer. Of course, something else that you don't need when you go with the column array system, Bose, you don't need cabling. So with the traditional point source system, you're going to need, it says 10 feet here, but I use at least 15 to 20 feet cables, XLR cables. So you need one on the left going to your top from the mixer or out from the subwoofer, depends on how you want to run it. Another second one from your right side, so there's 2 cables right there. And then personally, I run my subwoofer from the mixer. So that's your 3rd cable right there. Each one, which is a great deal on Amazon. This is a well reviewed cable, the Lynx Pro. And it's only $15 a cable. So there you got your $45 for 3 cables. Again, it's not besides the price. It's just so you have to untangle them. Sometimes you forget the cables. So the Bose system is just wonderful that you're not dealing with cables. So doing the math, this system, which competes directly with the Pro32 Sub 1 system, is $2,355. And that gets you your traditional system. It's a small system. You're not going to DJ a high school graduation. You would need much larger subwoofers, but this pretty much system, I would say, competes in volume and in clarity to a Bose Pro32 unit. Getting back to the Bose system, so it's $2,700, so it's about $300 more. And again, that's for the buyer to decide for their particular needs between the traditional system and this column system. Many people go with the Bose because of the weight, the ease of setup. I've talked about that in the last video, a 5-minute setup. So there is great differences between the two systems. Okay, getting into the direct competition with other column arrays. We're going to start with something I own. It's called the Electro Voice EV30M for $1,200. Actually went down in price since I bought it. This is a wonderful system. I'm very happy with it. I bought this before the Bose, and I'm still very pleased with it. There are some features of this system that outshine the Bose. I think I mentioned some of them in past videos. So here's a difference right off the bat. It has a 10-inch woofer. I'm not going to call it a subwoofer because that woofer has to handle mids and lows, and it's in a small cabinet, so it's not a dedicated subwoofer. So it's not going to compete directly with the Sub 1. The Sub 1 does definitely outperform this mid bass module, we'll call it 10-inch. Going right here, it does have a frequency range that goes up to 20 hertz. Again, I mentioned that the Bose systems do not go up to 20, and that's where you want to see, that's where you get the best highs at 20 hertz. So this system has cleaner high end. This goes up to 123 dB. So this is very similar to the 124 dB of the Bose Pro32 sub 1 system, but it doesn't have the bass performance. I mentioned this about the horizontal coverage. This has 120 degree coverage, but the Bose is famous for their 180 degree coverage. Again, covering a larger audience. I mentioned this in previous videos as a downside of the Bose system, that they're still using the old school two-band EQ, bass and treble. And this has a 7-band graphic EQ, full control of mids. So again, I'm using that, and it's something I miss. The weight is very similar to the Bose system, very easily handled. This is a very nice portable system. I do want to mention, when I mentioned the EQ, Bose does have EQs, but a lot of them are tone match, and they're dealing with the guitar and vocals. And I don't do either of those. I'm not a guitarist and I'm not a vocalist. So I do miss the 7-band EQ that the EV provides. So since this EV30 is much less expensive than the Bose system, and the subwoofer on the EV cannot compete with the sub 1, I'm thinking to make it equal comparison, then you're going to need an outboard subwoofer. And again, this subwoofer I mentioned, I own this, and this is the EV ELX 12-inch subwoofer for $700. So I would have to say you would have to figure this into the price to compare the two equally. But now you're dealing with more pieces. If that's something that doesn't bother you, then this system will perform equally to the Bose system. In some ways better. In some ways the Bose outperforms it. Again, this is why I'm giving these comparisons, and this is what people who are purchasing a new system have to decide. This is a system that I have not heard personally. It's the next step up from what I own. This is called the Evolve50M. It actually just came out. The M stands for mixer built in. It has the same mixer that I have in the 30M. It's $2,000, so this is more of a direct comparison with the Bose system, which is $3,000, the sub 2 system. And when I was purchasing the 30M, I did go into Guitar Center and try to lift the bass unit, and it was kind of like dead weight. I don't have the exact figures for you. You can look that up. But again, the Bose system is easier to carry. And I don't know exactly the weight of this. The Bose sub 2 at 52 pounds is fairly heavy. But that's why I went with the 30M, because of this bass module was too heavy. So I haven't actually heard this unit. It has the same amplifier, but it has a great number of woofers on top, so it goes louder than the 30. Personally, I don't need anything louder than 30. It's plenty loud. Okay, let's look at the specs. So it does go up to 130 dB max SPL, and that is greater than the Bose sub 2 system. Not by much. Bose sub 2 system goes up to 128. This is 130. So probably not noticeable. Again, this goes up to 20 HZ on the top end, which beats the Bose. This is using a 15-inch woofer. Again, I don't know if it can equal the sub 2 low end. It's not in its own cabinet. It has all the electronics in that enclosure. So again, I don't know if they can compete, but this is probably very comparable. But like I said, I haven't actually heard it, so I do not know which one is the better performer. Again, here's your figure on the top end, 20 hertz, and it is a 1,000-watt system on the low end, very similar to the Bose sub 2, which is also 1,000 watts. The next competitor out there After EV is the RCF. It's called the Evox12. This system is pricey at $2,500. Right here it says it has a 15-inch subwoofer. I have never personally heard this. I do have RCF point source speakers, so I know the quality. They're excellent company from Italy. Great customer service. I've dealt with them before, but I have never actually heard this particular unit. I do have an RCF subwoofer that performs wonderfully, but I can't compare this directly with the Bose personally because I have not heard this. Here's the RCF Evox12 spec sheet. Again, looking at frequency response, it goes up to 20, besting the Bose again, better high-end clarity. The SPL is slightly higher again. It equals the EV at 130 decibels, just slightly higher than the Bose sub 2 system, which is 128. And I don't think you're going to hear the 2 dB difference. But this does not have an outboard subwoofer like the sub 2. Again, this is the electronics, and the woofer is in one cabinet. I can't tell you how it performs though. The low frequencies have a similar amp to the sub 2, 1,000 watts. And I have never picked this up, but I believe the sub unit is fairly heavy, probably in the 60-pound range. RCF is a big name in the DJ world out there. A lot of competition between EV and RCF. One of the unique features of the Evox12 that I don't believe any other company in this price range or column systems have, and they have wheels built into the sub. They don't look like they're extremely heavy-duty wheels, but it makes a difference, especially this is a heavy unit. Here's the whole system. It comes with an adjustable pole that turns, so you can turn it to the left or the right, and that's one of the criticisms of the EV system and the Bose system, that the array doesn't turn. You have to pick up the whole system. So that's unique to this. And if you look there, it has a handle, like a luggage handle with wheels. So that is very interesting and again, unique to RCF. Here's your close-up picture of the handle. It looks like it's a short handle to be able to handle that weight. Again, but once you're going up steps or in some other type of situation, you're gonna have to muscle it. And I believe this base unit is fairly heavy. One of the statements I made in a past video, and that was that the Bose Pro32 system, especially the sub 2, can equal many hi-fi systems out there. And I got some flack from some comments, and the system that I personally compared it to was the system I have. It's called the Golden Ear Triton 2, and it's $4,000 for the pair. I've had this for a number of years. It's a wonderful system. The highs are excellent. They use a ribbon tweeter, and it is known for low end. It uses powered woofers in each column. So one of my statements was, people out there who are looking for a live sound system, they can probably do double duty and buy a system like the Pro32 and use it for home use, especially if it's in a large area the way I've tested it in, and especially if you like to play it at dynamic loud volumes. The Pro32 sub 2 actually, like I said, I tested them side by side. They were equals. If anything, the sub 2 had better bass than the Golden Ear. It was definitely better bass. Like I said, these have woofers built into columns, but the sub 2 is a outboard traditional subwoofer, so it went lower and louder. So here you talk about a $4,000 system. I have a fairly mid-fi receiver and $400. Of course, you need your cabling, and the number one disadvantage of that system is it's tied down. You're not going to move it from room to room or bring it to the backyard. So I'll stand by my hearing, what I've heard A/B test, that the Pro32 Sub 2 system can equal many hi-fi systems out there in the audiophile world. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of flack from that because people just say impossible. But I do want to emphasize something, and that is this system, when played at a low volume, let's say 75 dB, 80 dB, of course, it is much clearer than the Bose system. Especially, I showed you how the Bose system doesn't have the best 20 hertz top end. This goes even higher than 20 hertz. So when you play low, no, it will not compare to a hi-fi audio system, or especially a studio monitors. But when you get up in volume, and I'm talking 90 dB, this is the equal. This will fill a large home with one mono speaker for $3,200. I've done it, I've tested it, and I can recommend it to people. And it takes up so little room. You don't need two speakers, you don't need the receiver, you don't need all those wires. And then of course, you can use it for live sound, and you can use it in a mobile situation. So that's just my take on this. Don't tell this to too many audiophiles. I'll get a lot of negative comments. Their comeback will be just impossible. But to my ears, like I said, I put the two systems next to each other, and they were basically equal. Of course, if you decide to go with the Bose Pro line, then you have to decide Pro32, Pro16, which is the next step down, or the Pro8. So in the last video, I mentioned how the sub 1 of the Pro32 sub 1 system outperforms the Pro16, even though they have the same racetrack driver. But another thing I didn't mention, and this kind of shows you the statistic, and that is the Pro16 has the subunit at 41.3, basically almost 42 pounds, compared to the 35.5 pounds of the sub 1. So the sub 1 is lighter and a better performing sub. So I don't see a lot of pluses about the Pro 16, of course the price, but I'm talking performance only. It does take up obviously less room on the stage. It has one sub unit and a column, where the Pro 32 unit has a floor unit and the sub 1. So you got two units on the floor. I did mention one of the downsides, in my opinion, of the Bose system is the fact that the subwoofers do not have Bluetooth connectivity. But I forgot to mention they do have the ability to have firmware updates, which is a definite plus that many traditional subwoofers don't have, especially older models. So just recently, Bose actually did a firmware update on the sub 1 and 2, and they alleviated a problem with gain. So if you read some negative YouTube videos, even I mentioned it myself in some of my videos about the gain issue, clipping at 12 o'clock, they pretty much solved that problem through a firmware update. So that is great technology that in the future, the subwoofer might even become better as they're able to move some of that technology to the consumer without extra pay. Kind of like the electric cars, the Tesla. People who bought the Tesla years ago, all of a sudden they're getting features that they'd never even paid for through firmware updates. So that's pretty important. I read an article recently by another reviewer reviewing the Bose S1 Pro versus the new JBL Party Box 100, which got a very good review, by the way. But it said the Bose really excelled in the Bluetooth range. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration on the Pro32 system. Again, I've shared that I think the Bluetooth is wonderful on the 32 system. When I first started my research before I purchased, I had a question myself about why would DJs, I'm not a DJ, but I just wondered, why would DJs be using this particular system for a wedding situation over their point source traditional systems, which they've used for years. And I'm thinking of the Bose F1, they have a traditional system. And the answer, besides the weight and the portability, was the fact that the column array, it directs sound to a far distance, so the people in the very back of the wedding venue can hear clearly. But the number one pro compared to the traditional system, and that is it doesn't blast the people up front. So it's nice and loud for the dance floor, and the tables, the people eating and talking in proximity to the dance floor, they can still do that. They can still talk and eat. And one of the DJs said his traditional system, I asked him, why aren't you using your F1 system? He said, I got a lot of complaints with my previous system. People were saying, turn it down, it's too loud. And they're not getting those same complaints with the Bose system. I experienced something interesting myself. I was playing the speakers at a good level, probably maybe 85 decibels, and I just happened to walk by the speaker, the column array, and my ear was very close to the speaker. And I realized, gee, it's not so loud. And then I put my ear even closer to the speaker, and it didn't get much louder. And I looked at the little speakers. I think they're 2 or 1 inch speakers, 32 speakers in a row. And with this particular technology, again, it projects the sound outward, but close up on stage, it doesn't blast the musicians. So again, this is one of the main reasons why people have gone to the Bose column array and the other companies that are doing column arrays. But maybe Bose even has a better system because of their 180-degree dispersion. Maybe even it's less volume on stage. I'm not sure about that though. Okay, I think we're ready for a wrap up. So the first decision that has to be made, if you're new to this live sound world, mobile world of DJing or just playing music for your own enjoyment or a musician, and that is, do you want to go with the traditional point source system or the column array? The point source system is definitely louder, 130 dB plus. So you're talking about live bands. Most live bands will not go with column arrays. You're talking rock bands. They're looking for the bite of the horn. The horn driver has a distinct, unique sound that you have to hear it side by side, and you'll hear it immediately. Vocals, guitar, electric guitar, they all sound. They have that sharper. I don't know how to explain it, but the sharper bite of the horn-loaded tweeter compared to column arrays. The column arrays obviously have the weight advantage, portability, setup time. We talked about that, super fast, 5 minutes or less, setup and tear down. I'm showing you right now the app control. To me, that is so high tech compared to the previous systems. I just love the apps. The column array has more of a hi-fi sound, especially Bose. They're known for their very clean sound. Acoustic guitarists love it. And the column array also has a longer throw than the traditional system. And we talked about how the stage volume is more bearable for the musicians. So there's your first decision, column array or traditional point source. Many people have both, obviously, like I do. So when I'm playing in the rock band, I'm going to use the point source system, and all my other majority of my use will be column array at this point. So once you've decided, if you have decided to go with column array, now you have to decide which company. I showed you the competition is fierce right now. Bose invented this technology, but all the others have caught up and in some ways passed Bose. You have EV, their new, the 30M and the 50M, the RCF line, the Evox line, which has great reviews. I really wish some people that see this and have those systems can comment, because I do not have them available to AB. I don't think I'm going to be able to test them personally next to each other. But if you do go to Bose, the Bose route, then you have to decide, is it going to be the sub 2 system for a little more money, $3,100, or is it going to be the system that I've been talking quite a bit about, and that is the Pro32 sub 1 for $2,700. Okay, that's your decision. Hope these two videos I've done back to back have been informative, and if it does help you make your decision, I would love to know. If you have any other questions, and one thing else I want to state before I wrap it up, and that is you don't have to stick with only Bose, or you can mix companies. So you can have a Pro32 system with a sub 1, and then if the case arises, you can line out from that bass unit to a QSC 18-inch subwoofer if you're playing that gym dance. So there's no rule that says you have to stick with the same company, even though many people think they do, or of course it looks better for DJ purposes. Okay, hope you've enjoyed. Don't forget to thumbs up or subscribe. Okay, later.